It looked very nice, and I wore it, and I felt, in case you're talking about, Sarah and I on Happier in Hollywood had on our costume designer from the Fix, Alison, to ask her, like, what should you wear in a Zoom meeting? And her suggestion, her number one suggestion, was a denim shirt with a collar. So that is what I wore.
And you know what I realized too, Alyssa, is part of it is just having a theory of what to do. It's like the decision fatigue of, should you do this, should you do that? It's just like, if somebody smart is like, do this, I'm like, okay, you're the expert. I don't even care if you're right. It's like, I just need some kind of heuristic.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of good reasons about why a collared shirt sort of framed you. If you're self-conscious about your neck, it kind of hides your neck. It's a pop of color. It's like not too dressed. And I was like, done.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody, I want to know, did you carry one thing with you? And I am seeing some, it looks like people did this. Excellent. Elizabeth, I know outer order intercom strategies are often not your favorite. That's not your favorite thing. Oh, someone says, so true. Just tell us what to do. I mean, that is the thing about so many things in life. One of my aphorisms is, most decisions don't require extensive research.
That's true.
How many questioners sometimes get overwhelmed with analysis paralysis with something like, what's the best thing to wear at a Zoom meeting? Or, or where should I, all these things, if you're a questioner, can kind of get overwhelming if there feels like there's a lot of information that you have to sift through in order to get to the best, most efficient, most rational answer.
By the way, Gretchen, someone says, another website says, wear a turtleneck because then the color is closer to your face.
Yeah, but you live in LA.
No, where I live, nobody wears turtlenecks, but a lot in other places that might be good advice.
Yeah.
I will say on the clutter question, I think during this time I have become much more aware of clutter because I'm just here all the time.
Yeah.
And I do want things to be less cluttered.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Now we're talking about the 4 tendencies here with questioner. Also, so if you don't know about what we're talking about, whether you're an upholder, a questioner, obliger, rebel, because I see some questioners saying that they know this feeling, you can take the quiz at quiz.gretchenrubin.com. 2.8 million people have taken this quiz. It's quick, it's free, and yeah, if you're a questioner, you may be feeling like, oh, I have to manage all this information, and that can be hard. Oh, yeah, someone says, I struggled so much when all this first happened because I like to evaluate all the data, and there's just so much advice and information. I think it's thumbs up if you're a questioner who feels like this, because there's a lot and it's constantly changing, and there's a lot of contradiction, and there's a lot of factors, because people are like, yes, but what if you omit this factor? And what if you take this into account? And like, these people say this, but these people say that. And like, maybe they both seem authoritative, or, or people are telling you, you should do this, you should do that. And you're like, I don't want to do that. There's no good evidence for that. And then it's something that I think for a lot of questioners can become a real source of frustration and drain, and can also lead to conflict with other people.
By the way, Gretchen, I think for any tendency, that's hard. I mean, the mixed information,
that's true,
and the conflicting advice, I think,
that's true.
Except for maybe a rebel who just is like, hey, I'm just going to do what I want anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, I mean, for an obliger, it's very hard, because you're like one person.
Yeah. Somebody says, I'm not a questioner, but I do feel overwhelmed with all this stuff. No, you're right, because if an obliger is like, well, I want to do whatever I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I don't know how.
Anxiety.
Yes. And someone says, I'm a rebel. I don't listen to the news. I just look it up. So, that's interesting. Someone says, Gretchen, I'm an upholder tipping to obliger, fighting obliger rebellion from work demands. Any advice on how to avoid it and dodge it? Yes, and that is something that was interesting that I wasn't aware of until I got deep into the research for the book, The 4 Tendencies, is sometimes upholders do experience a kind of upholder rebellion. That's usually a sign that you're an upholder who tips to obliger, like the commenter. So what you always want to do is to think about, how can I create outer accountability for taking time for myself or for saying no? And in this situation, for instance, one thing you might say is, if I say yes to work, I have to say no to someone else. So maybe maybe you all, you want to read out loud to your kids for half an hour every day, every evening. well, if you say yes to work, you're going to have to say no to your kids. And that works for obligers very well, but it can also work for upholders. Also, upholders tend to do better when they can meet inner expectations, but inner expectations have to be very clearly articulated. And so if you're feeling like you're not meeting an inner expectation, it may be that you just in your own mind haven't quite settled, like, what is it that you want to expect from yourself? So really try to sit down. This works for questioners very well too. Sit down and think, what does it look like for me? What is the right answer for me? What is too much for me to ask of me? What is appropriate for me to do? What is right for me to do? Once that's very clear, usually upholders and questioners find it easier to start to draw those boundaries.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all these tendency people. Excellent. Yes, take the quiz if you don't know what we're talking about. Being an obliger, being home, trying to tend to my kids' needs, my husband, and home stuff has been exhausting. Yes, give it the thumbs up if you agree with that. I heard from many obligers.
Yes, because it's like all those people are there now all the time at the same time. That is rough.
And so then what happens? Obliger rebellion.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Watch out.
That, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is I think for a lot of us, obliger rebellion can take the form of like eating stuff you shouldn't eat, drinking more than you want to drink. And if you just think about it, like, who is that impacting but you? So it sort of has the opposite effect, which is you're hurting yourself instead of taking care of yourself.
But it's a very common form of obliger rebellion. It took me a long time to understand this, but it's kind of like, well, I'm going to do this, I'll show you. But it's like, you're not showing anyone. Or it's also the feeling like, with everything that's being asked of me, how can you possibly ask me to eat healthfully? But it's like, and you can always get away with that kind of obliger rebellion because it falls on you. But that's the sad thing, is it's falling on the obliger, him or herself. And this is why if you are obliger is the biggest tendency for both men and women. So all of us have many obligers in our lives. If you're around an obliger, look for opportunities to make things fair and to make sure they're not taken advantage of. Don't take advantage of them yourself. Like, really make sure that you don't impose on they're the rock of the world. But we have a duty to be fair and don't make them do like, I hear this with kids all the time. Like, I have a kid who always resists anything I ask him to do. And then I have a kid who always does what I ask him to do. So I'm always asking the kid will do it, because who wants to have the argument?
Right.
That's not fair to that kid.
Yeah.
Who ends up doing 5 times as many chores just because he does it when you ask. Like, that's on us as parents to say, well, I need to come up with a different system. So
someone in the comments is saying they're an obliger and that they're eating all the treats, like exactly what we're talking about. So what can we say to this person to help her or him?
This is a whole, it's like my mind is exploding. There's like so much there. First of all, better than before. My whole book is about this. So it's full of like tips and tricks and solutions, like of all different kinds. But maybe like I would just shortcut all of it and go to inconvenience. And I would say, tell your family, hide the treats. I don't want to see the treats. Get them out of my way. I don't want to have to resist them. And so I just hide them.
I would say, instead of that, just tell your family as well. Also, from 7 to 8 p.m., I'm watching The Sopranos and no one can bother me. So make a space for yourself, whatever that looks like for you, at the same time. And
remember to give yourself outer accountability for that. Don't just say you're going to do it, because then you probably won't. Have some kind of outer accountability. Now, maybe you could, this is something I just heard and I think it's so clever. And so maybe you could adapt it. I can't on the fly think of substitutions, but I think people could. So it was 2 sisters-in-law. They wanted to do a 30-day yoga. They wanted to do 30-day yoga challenge, which was for themselves, right? Okay. So the idea is, so Elizabeth, you and I challenge us. If I do 30 days of yoga straight, you get a massage. We both love massage. If you do 30 days of yoga straight, I get a massage. But if you don't do your yoga, I don't get my massage. So you have to do it in order to get my massage. So maybe you could make some kind of deal with somebody where, like, if I, don't eat potato chips for my, it gets tricky because of reward and the problems with reward. Anyway, it's not as hard as you think once you do it the way that's right for you, but you really have to think. There's just a lot to think about. And then there's the abstainer moderator issue, which is you're better giving up if it's something is your kryptonite, maybe it's easier for you to give it up altogether than to try to have a little bit. But if you're a moderator, that won't work, because moderators do. How many people know if they're abstainers or moderators? Give me a thumbs up if you know you're either an abstainer or moderator, because I'm just fascinated by that distinction. I'm an abstainer, 100%. Yeah, somebody calls it trading treats. That's great. I like that phrase.
Trading treats. Ooh, that's one to write down, Gretch. Yeah, I'm an abstainer.
Wait, here somebody says, I thought if I eat her cookies, we'll have to go to the supermarket to get them, so don't do it.
Very good idea. Yes.
That's a good idea. Put more suggestions. Obligors who have foxed this out. Oh, look at all these abstainers.
There's some moderators too, though.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, and on my blog, if you want to take a little kind of quiz, it's not even a quiz, it's sort of a quiz, but read the descriptions and read up about moderators and abstainers and how you might use, and most of us are a mix. You're a moderator or an abstainer as to how do you handle a strong temptation. So I'm an abstainer as to sweets because of a crazy sweet tooth, but I'm a moderator as to wine because I can have half a glass of wine. I don't really like wine. And Alyssa, you gave up your kryptonite.
Yes, French fries. Free from French fries.
Yes. So that's another thing you can do, which is just give up your kryptonite.
Yes. I did then started eating more potato chips. So really I should give up potato chips, but I haven't done that yet. Took me decades to give up fries. So, it's going to be a struggle.
Okay. Two things. One, Mom just joined. Hi, Mom.
Oh, hi, Mom.
And then also, if you're just joining, I'm Gretchen Rubin. This is Elizabeth Kraft. We are the hosts of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And we're talking about the 4 tendencies. And also, are you an abstainer or moderator? If you do not know your tendency, if you don't know if you're an upholder, questioner, obliger, rebel, you can take the quiz at quiz.gretchenrubin.com. Okay, and about abstainer moderator, how many times have I heard this? Somebody says, I'm an abstainer who wishes she were a moderator. I do too.
So do we all.
Don't we all? We all would love to be moderators. Yeah. It's just, you don't get to pick. It's like a lot of night people would like to be morning people.
Well, a lot of us would like to be upholders, Gretch, like you, but we're not.
Yeah. Somebody says salvation from all spuds. Woo!
Potatoes. That's funny.
Yeah, so you broaden out the category of kryptonite. So your kryptonite isn't French fries, your kryptonite is potatoes.
Oh, yes. I wasn't thinking about that in relation to me. Now I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what was it? The salvation from spuds. Okay, I'm going to have to deeply ponder that.
Anything that uses the word spuds too, I feel I'm back in the 1950s, and
I love it.
Somebody says fries is a life. I'll never give them up.
I get that.
Somebody says abstainer. What does moderator even mean? Well, this reminds me. So we had our first producer on the Happier podcast is brilliant, Henry Malofsky. He has a new podcast. Oh, I just forgot the name of it.
I know. I just did too.
It just launched. I keep thinking, where's my voice? It's not that. Anyway, it sounds very cool. Anyway, Henry,
tomorrow we'll announce it.
We'll announce it tomorrow, because he's wonderful. He's brilliant. And Henry is one of these people where he loved fine chocolates, and every Christmas his mother would get him one of these fancy containers of the fancy, imported chocolates, wrapped up in all this foil and everything. And Henry would have them in his desk, and every few days he'd have one little piece of chocolate. And he said that often the last ones would get stale because he wouldn't finish them in time. And I was like, what kind of person does that? Because the idea that you would just have one little bite of chocolate and that would be enough for a day or two. I'm the minute I have the chocolate in my mouth, it's just I'm going all the way. That's all I'm going to be thinking about.
To that point, I want to remind everyone of a tip from Dr. Molina, who we had on Happier in Hollywood to talk about this. She said, after you eat something like chocolate, have a mint. She said, once the taste is out of your mouth, you'll have much less of a desire to go back to it. So if you eat some chocolate, but you don't want to eat more, have a mint. So I've been doing that. And I think it is helpful.
Does that help? I've also heard that about pickles.
Eat a pickle.
And then also brushing your teeth. And
Well,
I think brushing your teeth is especially good if you have a trouble with night snacking, because it kind of is the indication that like eating is done now.
Yes.
Because we associate with it.
Yes.
Someone
Said, Gretch, someone
you,
said that what trying on their jeans helped them to abstain, which was our challenge the other day of trying on some pants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. Someone says, I have had to abstain from wine and coffee for health reasons, and it was easy because it was for health. Why can't I seem to use that reason for cookies? Okay, well, like now I'm going to go a little bit on my happiness bully side. I encourage you to read the work of Gary Taubes, which totally transformed my life. Why we get fat, the case against sugar. And he will talk, and those books talk about sugar and the health effects of sugar. And so it sounds like you're a person, and maybe you're a questioner, or an obliger who responds to health arguments. And I just found the Gary Taubes books just to be like utterly convincing. And
as did our father.
As did our father. Yeah. And so I think you need to, but your question points up a very, very important tip that can work for everyone, which is if you're having trouble changing a habit, ask yourself, is there a circumstance, a similar circumstance or the same behavior in the past when I was successful? So like, I can't make myself cook now, but when I lived in that group house in Washington after college, I cooked all the time. When I gave up wine for health, it was easy. Why can't I give up cookies? And like my first obliger encounter was somebody who said, when I was in high school, I was on the track team and I never missed track practice. Why can't I go running now? Well, a lot of times the past has clues about how we can succeed in the present. There's just some element of the past that we need to bring forward. But you've got a great start because you know you can succeed if the circumstances are right. So that's a great thing for anybody to do who's struggling with a habit.
Well, so many of us give up so much when we're pregnant, of course. And it's like not even a problem. And then as soon as you're not pregnant anymore,
that's the strategy. That's the strategy of the lightning bolt, which is you get a new piece of information or like a new insight and your habits change overnight. And one of the things you want to be very careful about is if you have a positive habit change from the lightning bolt, you really want to preserve it, because sometimes it's so surprising to people that it came so easily. They're like, oh, I just have no problem with this anymore. It's like, no, protect it.
Speaking of a positive, there's my phone.
Yeah, it goes I think you got
change.
Spam caller. Yeah, every day.
Gretch, we wanted to ask people today if they had a positive habit change.
Yes. So put it in the comments. Okay, again, I'm Gretchen Rubin. This is Elizabeth Kraft. We're the hosts of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And Elizabeth has asked an excellent question, which is, we've been talking about some frustrating habits. Have you had habits that are for the better? Like, have you been reading to your kids every night, or have you been eating dinner together every night, or have you gotten back into meditation, or have you been keeping your COVID-19 journal? Have you been doing your walk 20 and 20 with greater regularity now that time is sort of different for us all? It would be great. Getting more sleep. That's great. Meditation every day for the last 3 weeks. Cooking more and take out less, cheaper and healthier. Menu planning.
I think a lot of people are menu planning because they don't want to have to keep going back to the grocery store. So they want to figure out exactly what they're eating all week.
Well, and I think also this has made us all more aware of like not wanting to waste and to like really like we need to make the most of everything that we have. And so, it's funny. Give me a thumbs up if you've experienced this, because it's just something. This is total anecdata. But I've talked to several people and like they've mentioned like being awake late at night with anxious thoughts, and the form that their anxiety took was using up leftovers efficiently. Like somebody said she was up for like a half an hour in the middle of the night worrying about like this chicken breast. And like she could make this, she could make that, but one kid didn't like this, but then she could make this other thing. And it's like, and several people have said that. And I think it's just so unexpected that I've been struck. So I'd be curious to know if other people have heard, have had that experience. Yeah, there's a thumbs up.
I've been making my bed, Gretch, which I didn't ever do. Make the bed and then open the curtains. And opening the curtains really makes it just feel better in our room. It's not like a dungeon. It's like, let in the light, let there be light. I definitely want to keep making the bed. I love that.
Oh, that's good. Well, the raising the blinds, my daughter Eliza is she's one of these people that's very sensitive to light, and she's terrible about raising her blinds. And finally I just decided, well, I'll just go and raise her blinds every day. I don't get it. Like, I always want as much light as possible, but I was like, that'll just be like my little motherly gift to her. Oh, family walks. That's great. Someone says, I agree, Liz. Oh, that's right. I'm spending more time planning my meals, but not in an anxious way. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, someone says, what is foro? We talked about it before. What is it? Foro? F-O-R-O, Gretch. We wrote it down.
Oh, right.
Fear of
running out.
Running out.
Fear of running
out. Yes, that goes to the leftovers. Fear of running out.
Fear of running out, right. Somebody says, I raised my kids' blinds. There you go.
My anxiety dreams have all been about being at parties where no one's social distancing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I guess that's like looking into the future and just sort of, what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of people have had really good habits. And so I think this is a time when a lot of good habits have been disrupted. And so that can be discouraging if, like, you've had a habit that you're now struggling to keep up with, maybe you had success with in the past. But it seems like a lot of people really are doing well with habits. And so one of the things I would tell people, like, challenge them, and I wrote about this a lot in Better Than Before, is think about, well, how can I, when circumstances change, how can I hang on to this? And one of the things I tried to do in Better Than Before, I talk about the 21 strategies of habit change. And there's, like, you might use 5 or 6 strategies to really cement a habit in place. And it's very hard not to continue as we begin. And so you really want to be thinking about it so you don't accidentally slip out of a good habit without even realizing it, because things change gradually. I think this is going to be one of these, this is the frog in the pot in the boiling water. It's not going to fling open and everything's going to go back. And so I think we want to have a plan. Like, if I'm doing a really great job doing menu planning, how am I going to keep that up?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody says, my daughter loves when we open the blinds. Street watch is good entertainment. That's fun. People eating at home more. We're talking to our neighbors more, and everyone is walking around our lake. They close the parkway to cars. Oh, that's interesting. Now, see, that's a great example of a habit where you're like, it was so lovely to do that, but how do I envision that would look like when my life is more ordinary? Would I go on the weekends? Would I go before work? Would I go after work? Would we do it as a family?
Well, I've even found, Gretchen, for me, like, because I've been trying to do 10,000 steps every day on the treadmill. And it was easy when, like, everyone was like all off kilter and nothing was really happening in terms of work. But the more my work picks up, the harder it is to do the 10,000 steps, because suddenly, instead of doing them at 2 p.m., I'm starting them at 5 p.m. Because I'm busy all day. Right.
So as circumstances change, things that seemed like, oh, this is no big deal, all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I remember why I didn't do this before.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, now I remember why we got so much takeout. Because I don't have so much time to cook. Someone says, I found that less variability in my schedule helps my habits. You see, that's interesting, because I think for some people, ordinary life has more structure, and then for some people, ordinary life has less structure. So again, this is one of these things where one of the things that's very confusing about this time is it's hitting everybody very differently, depending on what your work is like, what your work situation is like. Do you have kids at home? How old are the kids? Do you have are you by yourself? Do you have an adult partner? Are you an essential worker? Everybody is having to figure this out, kind of, it's a decision tree that's different for us all.
Someone asked if my treadmill desk is at home. Well, it's in the garage, because we moved out of our office. And my thinking was, I don't have a great place for it in the house, so we're just keeping it in the garage until I have another office. But now that it looks like any work that happens in Hollywood for me is going to be at home for at least the next several months, Adam and I are going to bring it into our office and just sort of try to reconfigure the office to make it work, because it will be hugely helpful to have it.
I just can't even express to you how much I wish I could be there to get my hands on your office again, because every time I do it, it's like I don't get to do it as much as I want. You always get tired out, and I have to like be a good sister and stop.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can do to get that treadmill desk in there.
But you may have a lipstick on your teeth issue.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I can't quite see, but I think so.
Probably I do. There you go. Well, quickly, let's do let's just tell everybody the challenge for tomorrow. This is a fun challenge.
Oh, yeah. So challenge for tomorrow, inspired by our weekend's cleaning session. Adam and I did a lot of cleaning this weekend. We really went for it with the cleaning. And something Adam did that blew my mind was we had a mixer, you know, the kind of big mixer that people have. I forget
Standing
what,
mixer.
Mixmaster, on our counter. It's been there, you know, for 10 years at least. But guess what? We never used the mixer. I mean, I don't know if we've ever used it. But it never even crossed my mind to move it. But Adam moved it into a cabinet. So now it's just made it was on our island. It's made it look so much better. I cannot even tell you the difference. So the challenge is like find an eyesore in your house and move it to somewhere else to take it away. And you'd think, well, that's so obvious. I'll just do that naturally. But this mixer has been on our counter for a decade. So,
yeah.
And it's so lovely without it.
The thing is, it's like you get used to things being in a certain place and then you don't even see them anymore. And yet they do kind of clutter. Or they like make things, you kind of drag things down.
Yes.
So I think, one of the challenges is seeing it. Like today I went through, I was cleaning our shower and I like made everybody in the bath come to the bathroom and be like, do you like, it's like, who uses what products and are any of them just sitting there for like 5 years? No one's using them, but everybody just leaves them there because we share a shower with Alyssa. So, so then it's like, we don't, is everything being used? Turns out everything was being used, but it's like, but I could imagine that we could have had a bunch of stuff in there that we just didn't know enough. And it was sort of an eyesore that we didn't know enough to get to question.
Someone's asking if we're going to give away the mixer. No, because I still have my fantasy self to attend to, and my fantasy self is going to use that mixer one day.
Well, and I mean, Jack might one day want to make chocolate chip cookies or something. Right. I mean, he doesn't now, but when he's 12 or something, that might be fun. It's good to have a mixer. If you've already got one, I mean, if you didn't have one, I don't listen to me.
I wouldn't buy one.
Yeah. So tackle an eyesore, and now it's time for accountability check-in.
Yes.
Put in the comments, what do you want to be? Oh, the fantasy self is important. Yes, that's a very profound statement. I use my mixer to shred chicken. Oh, that sounds more your jam, Elizabeth. I can imagine you shredding chicken and making some kind of like guacamole thing. No. Okay. Yes, I'll just keep it. So what do you want to be held accountable for? Put it in the comments. And if you deserve a gold star for something that you want to be held accountable for and you've done it and you want your gold star, we are here to lavish you with gold stars.
Yeah.
I am Gretchen Rubin. This is Elizabeth Kraft. We are the host of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. Someone says, I need a new daily accountability. Well, that is a great thing to know. Figure out. You might want to have a couple different systems of accountability.
If someone wants to get their podcast out, that's a good.
Keep swimming daily. That's great. Somebody says, was yesterday's session at a different time? Can I watch it anywhere, please? Yes, it was at 2:00 because of various Elizabeth's fabulous Hollywood job, and I had a call too. So it was at 2:00. You can watch this up for 24 hours. If you go to my profile at the bottom, you'll see something that says stories or story and something that says live, and you can watch this for up to 20. Oh, but now it's after 2. It's been 24 hours. So I don't think you can watch it, unfortunately. No, they're only there for 24 hours. Also, if you would rather watch on desktop, it's actually nice to watch on desktop because the comments are to the side. And so poor Elizabeth's face is not obscured. We can't fix that. But that you can only do live. If you go to Instagram on the desktop, it presents that way, but then you have to watch it live. If someone's doing buns of steel. Oh, that's great.
Oh, nice.
Want to be held accountable for making daily progress on a flag I'm making. Okay, we will hold you accountable. Finally made sourdough bread, gold star. Oh, it's on IGTV. Oh, is it on IGTV after 24 hours? Oh, yeah, somebody says, I think all your old ones are available on IGTV. Oh. There you go. See, Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for knowing technology
Yes.
better. Someone
And
says
I
my
want to
book.
be account. Oh,
Someone says my book is due to the publisher August 1st, and I'm getting really tired as I reach the last stretch. Well,
oh
everybody, we will
boy.
send you our good wishes and our energy.
Just
Um,
think how good you're going to feel August 2nd.
yes. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what you always do, Elizabeth, right? By dinner,
Yes.
this will all be over. By Halloween, this
Yeah.
will all be over. By
By
August 2nd.
August 2nd, this will be over.
Yes.
I still want to be accountable for my snack bursting. And I know there are others out there who also want to avoid snack bursting, especially late night snack bursts. So
Yes.
going back on the record with that one.
Okay. Someone says, I need accountability in opening an Etsy store. Okay. Etsy.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's do it. Get it done. We're watching you. Check in, figure out like what's the reasonable time horizon, and we will hold you accountable. Being
Yes.
accountable for creating portraits of healthcare workers in the trenches. Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
that's nice.
That's wonderful. Yeah, somebody says, wow, watching on my laptop instead of the phone is so much better. Great. Okay, that's wonderful.
Oh, Gretch, someone wants to know if we won the Webby. I believe they're announcing it May 18th. Is that correct?
19th, May 19th.
Oh, May 19th. Okay.
Yes. Oh, someone says, yes, I've got to stop the night snacking. Yeah, someone says, don't buy snacks and don't keep them at home. That's a good one. That's the strategy to inconvenience. Yeah. Someone says, I need accountability on darning socks. Caps. Okay, darn those socks. Try the strategy of pairing. So find something that you really love to do, like a podcast that you love, and only listen to it while you're darning socks. That can work. That's the strategy of, someone says, I voted for you. That's great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to everyone who voted for us.
Yes, we will know. Okay, so your challenge, identify an eyesore and take action to get that eyesore out of your eyesight. Gold star to Adam for having realized that the mixer could be just put in a cabinet.
Yes.
And making a big difference. Okay, everyone, we will see you tomorrow, same time. And everybody let's keep our hands clean and our minds clear. Bye.
Bye.